We beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. On December 24th, 1986, I was living in Scotland, and my daughter was about to experience her first Christmas. We were in a little community north of Glasgow by about 40 miles. It was called Invertrossachs, which is near Callander, north of Aberfoyle. You know where it is. I'm sure I cleared it up right there for you. It was a magical time of year in Scotland. It was beautiful in that part of the world. We had about 8 inches of snow, and on this particular Christmas Eve, I was going to go with Rosanna's 4 boy cousins, which were ages this high and this high and this high. We were going to go and cut the Christmas tree on this forestry estate where we lived. Now, this forestry estate was nestled beneath Ben Ledi over here, which 2,000 years ago, Druids apparently practiced ritual sacrifice. And the estate itself was an estate that often had Queen Victoria as a visitor. And just over to my right was, well, that was General Wade's road. General Wade was the quartermaster for George III, who was traveling north to defeat the Scots at Culloden. And Bonnie Prince Charlie, whose armies were defeated forever. And over this direction was Ben Lomond, which was above, well, by yon bonny banks and by yon bonny braes, the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond. So that's where that was. And back this way was Rob Roy Pass. Now, for those of you that are not particularly familiar with the Scottish history, Rob Roy was a cattle thief. And he was notorious. And this is the pass through which he drove his cattle on the way home to Balquidder. Now, that must have cleared it up for sure. If you didn't know where we were right then, Balquidder probably showed you the spot on the map. So the thing about this time in my life, well, it was an interesting time for many reasons. But one of the things that's important to this particular story is you need to know that when sundown comes in Scotland at that time of year, it's like someone reaches over and turns the lights out, especially if you're in the mountains or in the edge of the Highland Line. So here it was, sundown is at 4 o'clock on the dot, and about 3 o'clock, the boys had not come yet. And I had been so looking forward to going up and with the boys and cutting this tree. So I got the bow saw out of the garage and called my dog Pepper and trudged out the door up through the snow, up the hill to the tree forest, to where we were going to select our tree. Got all the way up there, and then I heard the voices of the little boys. So Pepper and I turned around, we came back, we got the boys, we all went up to the tree field. And as we were playful, doing our playful things, like throwing snowballs at each other and everything else, we decided, or at least I asked them, I said, the object of the exercise is to find the most beautiful tree in the wood. The most beautiful tree in the wood. So we started. And these little boys are just running through the woods, and they'd say, "Come over here, Uncle Jim." But they said it with a very British accent. I would come over and see this, and we'd look at it, we'd all stand around. No, that one has bare spots there, and it's not. So we'd keep looking. Eventually, after a great deal of tumbling around in the snow, one of the boys, I think it was Ben, found the most beautiful tree in the wood. So we all got over it. Whoa, it looks good. Yeah, this is really something. It's about 8, 9 feet tall, and it's beautifully shaped. I think it was a Douglas fir. And here we are looking at this tree. We actually got around it, like, what is it, the Who's and Whoville around the... So we actually stood around the tree, and we're looking at this tree, and we're going, this is a beautiful, beautiful tree. And so when we all said, okay, this is it, this is the one. Then I said, okay, we're going to leave this tree, and we're going to go find another one. most beautiful tree in the wood. It was perfection. It was absolutely stunning tree. And I like to believe in my heart that it still is. And there have been any number of times in my life when I needed that tree. When I needed to recall that tree and to remember the experience of finding it and recognizing it with others that this was the most beautiful tree in the wood. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light that lighted the world. We had an example, and we still have an example, of the most beautiful person in the wood. We are called, I believe, to ponder that person. We're called upon to remember that person, and to remember that the perfect tree in the wood was not cut down. The person was, and raised up in another place. We are called upon to remember that. And we're called upon to find in that, actually, hope in a dark world. We're called upon to visit that place, that person. We're called upon to visit that person when we need it, and to recognize the presence of that person when we don't think we need it. The most beautiful tree in the wood, I believe, must be, 23 years later, it must be huge. It must still be beautiful. I hope it is. All I know is that when I go home tonight, I'm going to be remembering that little boy, that most beautiful boy.